Does anybody really know what time it is? Does anybody really care?
Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group, and back from vacation is Chip Janiszewski from the Hapoiness and Success GPS. How are you doing, Chip?
Yeah, man, I'm doing great.
Good to have you back.
Yeah, it was great down there. And I hear it was cold up here, so it was a great week to be down on the beach in the Bahamas.
Absolutely. Although I don't know that there's ever a bad week to be down on the beach at the Bahamas.
I don't think so.
So today we're going to be talking about time management. And I'm realizing over the last few weeks how important this topic is. Because I do a lot of posting of articles on social media, sharing information. And I got what I thought was a very strange response to an article I had posted. And the article was, I believe, from Inc. magazine, and it was 17 books you should read this year. And I got a response from someone saying, I don't have any time to read a book.
Nice.
And it's like, really, if you don't even have time to read a book, how are you surviving? And the fact of the matter is, you have the time to read a book. You have the time to do anything you want. It's just a matter of managing time and prioritizing things. I mean, if you take a look at how much time you spend on social media or how much time you spend in front of a television set, there's always ways to manage your time better. How much time do you spend commuting to an office or traveling to meetings? Stick an audiobook in the car, you're good to go. That's time you could. So I realized from that and a couple of other responses of people in different situations saying, oh, they don't have any time to do things. But time management really is important, and it really needs to be focused on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the last session, I think we talked about the E-Myth as a book as far as working on your business as opposed to working in it. But time management is working on yourself as opposed to just cruising through day to day. So it's the planning side of things.
Absolutely. Things come up. You're never going to be able to stick to a schedule exactly. But there's a difference between running your day and having the day run you.
Absolutely. So one of my favorite catch-all books for time management is a book written by Brian Tracy, who's a really unbelievable business coach, motivational speaker, what have you. And the book is called Eat That Frog.
Yes.
It's a summary of 21 great ways to stop procrastinating and get more things done faster. And the book is only a little over 100 pages long. There's 21 different chapters with topics on there, and you read about 3 pages of each chapter, and then it's got exercises at the end. And that's just a fantastic reference book where if you read through that, you'll be able to pick out a few things to put into practice. So, I mean, if right now you need a starting point, I mean, we're probably going to discuss a lot of things that's in there anyway, but that's a great book that I highly recommend getting, Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. And you can go online actually and download what the 21 great ways to stop procrastinating are. But I mean, there's certain things on there that you wouldn't think about, like practicing creative procrastination. Since you can't do everything, you must learn to deliberately put off those tasks that are so low value that you have enough time to do the few things that really count. And obviously, starting things out, you have to have your to-do list prioritized and that kind of thing in writing. So there's a lot of really, really neat stuff in there.
Right. And that brings up a really good point, is that time management really starts with prioritization. You have to figure out what's really important. And that's where you should be spending your time. And it goes back to the 80-20 rule. 20% of your customers give you 80% of your sales. Same thing goes for your time. 20% of your activity generally account for 80% of your time.
And
So
your
you
results.
have,
Yeah,
and yes, and your results.
and
So
that's
you
actually number 3 right here in the book. Apply the 80-20 rule to everything. 20%.
There you go.
For 80% of your results. Always concentrate your efforts on that top 20%. And as you say, it's that way for customers. It's that way for relationships and so on and so forth. You got to put your time investment where you're going to get the biggest return. So when it comes to business and things like that, it's identifying who are those potential people where if you spend 20% of your time are going to get you the most results. So in business, it could be just identifying people that know a whole lot of potential customers for you, and you can help them out too. So, but 80-20 is really the rule of prioritization.
It certainly is. And you really want to figure out, what's bringing you the best results? What are the most important things? And that starts by asking yourself the question, what is it that you want to achieve? What are the big goals that you have? If your big goal is, my daughter's getting married, I want to lose 15 pounds by the wedding, then diet and exercise shoot up in your priority list. If your big goal is you want to make $1 million in sales, then sales prospecting and calls shoot up in your priority list. You can't figure out what a top priority is unless you know what you're trying to achieve. And once you know what it is your big goals are, then you can prioritize the tasks and schedule them. And once you start putting things into order, you'll see how much time you can actually take back from your day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you must be reading my cheat sheet with me here. I mean, you hit rule number 3 with applying the 80-20 rule, and what you did was you just identified rule number 1, which is called set the table. Decide exactly what you want. Clarity is essential. Write out your goals and objectives before you begin. And then you started talking about rule number 2, which is planning each day in advance, thinking on paper. So those are the top 3: setting the table, which is the clarity rule. Number 2 is the planning rule. Number 3 is identifying what's the most important rule, which is the 80-20.
That's it. I mean, these are tried and true methods. I mean, Brian Tracy had it right in the book. And by the way, for those that don't know, the title of the book, Eat That Frog, actually comes from a Mark Twain story. And it refers to the fact that eating a frog is going to be the hardest thing that you do during your day. And if you eat that frog, everything else is going to be simple.
Yeah, and what he talks about is doing that first thing in the morning. So that frog is your biggest, most important, but the task that you want to do the least in the day. And if you do that first, then you cruise for the rest of the day.
Yep. So once you've got those goals, once you know exactly what it is, there are loads of time management strategies. And I cannot stress enough, they're not all going to work for everyone. You have to figure out what works for you. Now, there's one measurement method called the Pomodoro method. I don't know if you're familiar with this one, Chip.
I don't think I am.
This is basically where you set a timer and you work for 50 minutes on a task. Doesn't matter what the task is, whatever's up in your schedule, you focus on that for 50 minutes, nothing else. And then you take 10 minutes and regroup. Stop looking at your computer, walk away, do something else for that 10 minutes. Next 50-minute session comes. And you break up your day that way so that you have uninterrupted blocks of 50 minutes apiece that you're working on things that are important. And then you've got 10-minute blocks where you can, either relax, go for a walk. We've talked about meditation. It's a good place to put that. or do the things that seem to take up your whole day, like checking email, social media. If you just focus that in a 10-minute period, it takes it out of the rest of your day.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. And if you do have a written plan as far as what you're going to be doing with your hours of the day that way, and you have them all listed there, that's a super way to keep yourself organized, and I would imagine accomplish a whole lot. Thanks for sharing that, Eric.
My pleasure. One of the reasons it does work is, and this is key to any kind of productivity, any type of time management, you need to stop multitasking. We've all been raised with the idea we've got to get as much done at the same time as possible, and we jump from item to item. And study after study has shown this doesn't work. You focus on one thing at a time, give it your undivided attention, and you will actually get it done with higher quality and take up less time than if you're multitasking and you're doing one task and you're talking on the phone and you're checking emails.
Yep, and then you have to start everything all over again. And that's actually that's the last tip, number 21, is single handling every task, going from start to finish. And I mean, if you really think about it, and we're all guilty, yours truly big time, of getting just tied up in a whole bunch of things, and you end up starting the same thing so many times over again. And what that does is it frustrates you, so you just don't even want to start other things too. So just by single tasking these things, and I think your Pomodoro method is a great way to do that. It's really will get you into a habit of being a whole lot more efficient just by practicing that.
Yeah, it's a great way to do it, and there are dozens of free apps. If you just go to either the iTunes App Store or Google Play, depending on your platform, and put in Pomodoro, you'll get all sorts of apps to guide you through the process.
That's great. I mean, it sounds pretty simple, but that's great.
Something else, and this also came up from a post that I had made on social media comment. I had posted an article about the importance of a to-do list. And somebody wrote, I never use a to-do list because I have to keep adding items to the list faster than I can check them off. The fact of the matter is that happens. I actually spent the last week and a half in that sort of a phase where I was writing things onto the to-do list faster than I could check them off. But if you don't put them onto the to-do list, there's this little voice in the back of your head going, why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you doing it? And either you tune out that voice and forget about it altogether, or it distracts you from everything else you have to do. And when you're distracted and not focusing, your task takes longer.
Yeah, I mean, you automatically end up multitasking.
Exactly. You know, there was a neurological study that showed your brain has no sense of time. It thinks everything that you have to do, it has to do immediately. And that's why writing things down, whether it's on a piece of paper or typing it into a computer spreadsheet or a scheduling program, whatever works for you, but putting it down signals your brain to say, okay, I'm done with that for now. I don't need to deal with that. Because it knows you've taken action. That action is writing it down on a list to do later, but your brain still looks at it as, that's an action, we've taken care of it, we can move on to what's in front of us.
Yeah, and if you have everything written on a list, then obviously it's really, really important to prioritize things. And this is where I love spreadsheets, because on a spreadsheet, you can just write down every task that you have to do in random order, but then you can start plugging in A, B, C, D's or priorities 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yep.
and putting it in front of there and just sorting it again and so on and so forth. And that's what I do every week. My to-do list is just a list of tasks on one side and then a list of contacts that I have to make as far as emails and calls on the other side. And what I do is I'm writing on that sheet of paper every day. I have that in my pocket to add to things. And then what I do is I go back on my computer and plug it in and prioritize it. And that's just one way to do things. With Brian Tracy, it says practicing the ABCDE method, which is the way you prioritize things. And, by just weighing the values of doing those things. But it is so important to work on a list. And as you said, sometimes you're going to get a whole bunch of stuff to do all at once, and it's got to go down on the list. But if you're writing it down, then you have things prioritized. And if you got to reprioritize things, at least it's all in front of you. But the list is so important as a starting point.
And that's something else. You had mentioned earlier, planning your day ahead of time. You should always look at what you have to do for the next day and prioritize that ahead of time, so that when you start your day, you don't have to worry about figuring it out. You did that at the end of the previous day, and you can hit the ground running.
Plus, it also gives you a much better night's sleep.
Oh, yeah, because it gives you that feeling that, okay, you're prepared for the next day, you're ready to go, your mind can shut off and not keep running through everything. And that's actually a very important piece of time management, is making sure you're getting good sleep. Because if your brain is exhausted, if you're tired, you're not functioning at your peak. You're not making the most of your time. So you do need to make sure you get enough sleep each night.
Yeah, we've talked before too about timing. Some people are morning people, some people are night people, and so on and so forth. And what Brian Tracy talks about is maximizing your personal powers, where you're identifying your best physical and mental times of day, and just planning to do things that way. And you've actually put together your whole planner based on that, so you can do that kind. So if you want to elaborate on what you've done again with the tool that you have, which is
the coaching planner we use, actually, we have on the schedule, we have an icon for you to mark off what your energy level is at that time of day. So you can track when you're at your highest energy, when you're at your lowest energy. And over time, as you do this, you can see the patterns. So you can figure out, oh, I do much better, first thing in the morning, 4 o'clock, I'm already shot. That's not a good time. Or you'll find 11 a.m., you're at your peak, 3 a.m. you dip, and then you come back at 4:30. Everybody has their own energy flow and how their body works. And it depends on when you eat and how well you sleep and what you have to do. A lot of it is genetic. Some of it is environmental. You have to figure out how your body is running to run at peak performance. The same way you need to tune up your car, you need to tune up your body. And unless you know how it's supposed to function, you're not going to hit that goal.
Absolutely.
When you figure out how it is you work, you can plug that into your day, scheduling your most important tasks when you have your highest energy. And again, by doing that, you're getting through those really important things faster because you're at your peak energy.
Absolutely. Another point that Brian Tracy talks about, which I think is pretty cool, is motivating yourself into action. It's really the being your own cheerleader, patting yourself on the back for accomplishment type thing, looking for the good in every situation. And that's really important. I mean, if you're looking for it and it'll make what you're doing more fun if you're focusing on the solution and are optimistic about what's going on, as opposed to saying, oh, I hate doing this, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of like beginning with the end in mind, like we were talking about with Stephen Covey. But
yes,
it's really, really important if you bring a positive attitude yourself to what you're doing and being your own cheerleader, especially for those of you who are solopreneurs like Eric and me working out of your homes every day. It's really, really important. And obviously, if you're at work, it's good to sit down with your fellow employees and whatever, and kind of really pat each other on the back. It's a great way to develop teamwork.
Absolutely. A positive mindset always leads to more productivity. More productivity means you're getting more done, you have more time. And so, something that so many people don't do is that they don't realize that everything they do is connected. There is no, this is what I do for work, this is what I do at home, this is, my hobby. You've got 24 hours in a day, period. And everything needs to fit in there. And if you don't work it all together, then you're leaving out key points. I mean, you may schedule meetings, say networking events, each night at certain times. But if your family life is important to you and you're not leaving time for dinner with the family, time to see your kids' show at school, something like that, that's when the stress comes in, because you're making either or choices. When you look at everything as part of the whole, whether it's dinner with the family, meetings for work, tasks you have to finish for a client, whatever it is, put it on your schedule. Even if it's something, if you're worried about your health, schedule in time to exercise. If you're taking supplements and you have a tendency to forget to take them, put them on your schedule.
Yeah,
you can't,
not just for professional tasks. That's really, really important. And one of the other things too is that everybody's good at certain things and everybody is not so good at certain things, or they like to do certain things and they don't like to do certain things. And if you can identify those things for your business and leverage working on the stuff that you're really good at, leveraging your special talents, and then really just delegating other things out or getting things done by somebody else for the other tasks that you're not as good at, that's all part of the organization process too. So, which is something a lot of people don't think about. They just like to do things from start to finish. And what happens is, think about that task that you're bogged down 3 times as long as the stuff that you're good at, which somebody else could do in 5 minutes. You got to identify that and plan for that. And that will help you with your time management big time if you can get that covered by somebody who's better at it than you are.
Absolutely. And a lot of people look at that and go, well, I'm just starting out. I don't have the money to hire somebody. You actually need to do the math. How much is your time worth doing the things that you're good at, getting your work done? You'll figure out if you're spending, say, 2 hours doing your accounting, and you're terrible at accounting. If you bring in a bookkeeper once a week, once a month, they're going to do it a lot faster than you can. And their hourly rate, if they're doing it in 1 hour where it's taking you 5, that 1 hour in money is worth a lot less than 5 hours of your time.
Absolutely. And when you're prioritizing your time, most people are most valuable to what they're doing by doing either business development or doing what they're best doing when they're producing the business. So I know we've talked a lot about networking and so on and so forth, but one outside the box thing that you really can do is develop some strategic partnerships with people with talents in different areas that affect all of your businesses, so that you can really use each other when you need to do that. And we have talked a bit about the mastermind principle, getting together with other business people to kind of discuss things and organize things. You can get a whole lot more done doing things like that than you can by yourself. And you mentioned the accounting, for instance. When I, as a consultant, I tell businesses they should sub out their accounting, they should sub out their HR, they should sub out their payroll. And if you do that, how much more time are you going to have for business development and fulfillment? And how much more will that bring to your top line? And the bottom line is that those costs for doing things, you're just going to fix. So you know exactly how much it's going to cost you But as you're saying, quantify it on paper, put it in a spreadsheet, and just see what the ramifications are.
Absolutely. And there's always little things you can do to hack your productivity, to fit more things into less time. We've talked about audiobooks while you're commuting. That's a classic. But think about it, if you've got a book on your phone, how much time are you spending waiting for a meeting, waiting in line? All of this is time. We've got productivity tools right on our phone that we can use. Waiting online, if you have to return a call, make the call. If there's a book you want to listen to, or, put it on your phone. Listen to it in 5-10 minute spurts. You're waiting online, waiting for a meeting, driving to the office. All of those little time periods can be used for quick tasks.
Absolutely. And listening to personal development books is so important. And audible.com makes it so easy because you can access audible.com using an app on your phone or in your car or just home on your computer. And the bottom line is it will automatically pick up where you left off regardless of what device that you're using on the book. It's just so amazing.
Exactly. Also, we're online at the supermarket, where, in the shower, wherever we are, something pops into your head. And of course, by the time you're going to get back to your office, you've already forgotten it. You should always have something nearby to write things down. You can put it in your phone. You can type a quick message to yourself. If you're not in a place that you can, type something in, most phones have voice memos. You can hit it quickly and just record a quick message to yourself. Call your office, call your own answering machine and leave yourself a message. We've all had the time in the shower where the great idea comes, and by the time you finished up, you've forgotten it. I actually used to keep in the shower, there are markers for kids so they can draw on the side of the bathtub or whatever. I used to keep that in the shower so I could write on the wall the quick idea. When I would finish up, I'd go write it down and then wipe it off.
Wow, that's tip number 22 that didn't make Brian Tracy's top. But you're right. There's so much technology out there where you can get things written down, and I do that all the time. I mean, I carry around my to-do list, as I say, and write on that, but I do all the above. If I'm sitting up there and I think of something, I'll just send myself a quick email so it's hitting me first thing in the morning or whatever. But it's just so important to just get started and do something.
Absolutely. Businesses give you all sorts of promotional gifts, pens, whatever. The best promotional gift I ever saw, a web designer gave me a waterproof pad that actually sticks on the side of your shower.
Wow.
So, there's all sorts of things you can do. You have the time. You just have to figure out how to use it. And speaking of time, we're running out of it here. So, Chip, what do you think is the one big takeaway you want our listeners to have?
Take some time and set up your time management system. Do it today.
Absolutely. My big takeaway is, yes, you have time to fit everything in. You just have to prioritize and figure out where it all fits. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us every week at blogtalkradio.com/Success Showcase. You can also find us on the Apple Podcasts app and the iTunes Store. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. See you then.